One of the biggest temptations when using EQ is to crank the high end on everything in the name of clarity and openness. A bump in the treble area, the frequency range from around 6 to 8 kHz up to 15 to 20 kHz, can certainly add a desirable sheen and a heightened sense of detail to almost any track that has enough high-frequency harmonic content. That's especially true for instruments like, say, acoustic guitar and piano, where some boost around 8 to 10K can bring out the metallic ring of the strings. Or cymbals and close mic drums, particularly snare, which can benefit from the extra snap and crispness that a push somewhere between 6 and 12K will deliver. And any recording that has a little room ambience in it may get a nice sense of air from a lift around 12K or so.
I gotta break away to find the breaks in shadows abiding where time isn't hiding, waiting to take away your break, my last dream.
But that extra air and detail can be seductive, and it can easily become too much of a good thing when it's added to a lot of tracks in the mix, and especially if it's applied too generously to the stereo output bus. The high end of the spectrum doesn't exist in a vacuum. The brighter everything gets, the less emphasis there is on the other frequency ranges, and a track or a mix can eventually become too crisp, too detailed, sacrificing warmth and fullness in the process. This is likely to happen gradually, almost unnoticeably. You go through each track in a mix, adding a little brightness, and they all sound better for it. But little by little, your ears become accustomed to this new normal, and as the mix gets busier, as you bring in more elements one by one, that extra detail that was so appealing seems to be lost a bit now in the blend of instruments, as density and masking naturally change the tonal perception of individual tracks and parts. So you restore a little of the seemingly lost detail with another slight bump in the highs here and there, and bit by bit, the mix starts to get overly bright. But since it's happening so gradually, you may not realize it until you take a step back, or a long enough break, and when you get back to mixing, you suddenly realize that all that enhanced clarity has come at the expense of the overall balance. Bright and crisp have now become thin and brittle, and the track is lacking in warmth compared with most other mixes. So you dial down some of that overemphasis on the highs, and you end up doing a considerable bit of remixing to get a more well-balanced overall tonal character. Now, there are no hard and fast rules, no this many dB numbers that I can cite as a guideline for exactly how much high-frequency EQ is the right amount. It'll depend heavily on both the arrangement and the individual recordings themselves. Is it an inherently bright instrument? Did the mic that was used in the recording already have a high-end boost designed into its response, like many mics do? Does the song have a lot of overall musical energy in the high-frequency range? A lot of cymbal washes, or bright strummy guitars or buzzy synths? Or there are a lot of background parts that are getting lost in the mix without some extra sparkle? Do most mixes in the song's musical genre tend to be on the bright side overall, like, say, some electronic tracks? Or is the style typically mixed for a more mellow overall tonality, like a lot of indie rock or roots music? All of these considerations will determine just how much extra oomph should be applied in the high-frequency range. You might end up applying anything from a dB or 2 to 5 or 6 dB of treble boost, or even more. But the key is to stay aware of how much brighter you're making the song overall, and don't shoot for maximum crispness on every track. Pick and choose which parts of the arrangement really need a little more detail, and where that extra sheen will benefit the arrangement the most.